Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatye Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahmavid Param. Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome or welcome back, depending on if you were in the first course or if you are joining today for the first time. Before we begin anything, we remember Ganeshji, who is our Buddhi Devata, to help us to intelligently remove obstacles. Then we remember Saraswati Ma, Medha Devi, to help us to learn and retain what we have learned. And we need that terribly. And then we remember Guru, without whom there is no way this knowledge would reach us or become ours. In this class, we are studying Sanskrit. Sanskrit or Samskritam. The other way you'll hear it officially called in the Sanskrit language is Samskritam, not Sanskrit. So once you become a Sanskrit student, you stop calling it Sanskrit and you call it Sanskrit or you call it Samskritam. Samskritam literally means Samyak Kritam. Samyak Kritam, I'll write it down for you tomorrow or later today, right? Just listen. Samyak Kritam means that which is well made. How do you make a language well? You bake it at the right temperature and you make sure it doesn't go bad by leaving it out for too long, or like how do you make a language well? Sanskrit is called a well-made language because it is the most systematic, scientific, logical, well-defined, structured language that you will ever find. We saw how intelligently structured just the sounds were. And when we get to grammar, you will see it is the same thing. It is like doing math. And in fact, in Bharat, where Sanskrit is an option is a course option, people take it as a bird course, meaning they take it just to get easy marks. They don't care anything about it, but they know if I take Sanskrit, I'll pass easily. So that is the reason a lot of people take it. But I heard also AI uses Sanskrit in the coding and all because of how logical it is. So the good news is, to be good at Sanskrit, you don't need to be good at language. But the bad news is you need to be good at math. Okay, no, let me correct that. You need to be good at middle school math. If you can do middle school, junior school mathematics, then you'll be fine in Sanskrit class. You know, the proof that Sanskrit is well made is that there's no need to ever improve it or modify it. Meaning, there is no modern versus ancient Sanskrit. You know how in English we have the Shakespearean version of English that you read and you're like, what is this? And someone has to translate it from English to English for you. And then on the other hand, you have Alpha Gen English now. And they have to translate it for you also because we don't understand Alpha Gen. Those who understand are smiling. You all have to translate for us, right? But in Sanskrit, you don't find anything like Bhagavan Veda Vyasa version, Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya version, Guruji Swami Tejomayananda's version, right? You don't have Bhagavan Rama versus Bhagavan Krishna Sanskrit, right? The Sanskrit of the Vedas is the same Sanskrit of the Puranas, and it's the same Sanskrit of today's compositions. All same. You'll find regional languages keep changing, and Hindi of the past is different than Hindi of the present, but Sanskrit does not change. Why? Because it is Samyakritam, it is well made. There's no need to change it. Isn't that so cool? You give it thought, it's actually a very cool thing. So we will be studying Sanskrit grammar in this course. And the purpose of studying grammar will be for understanding Shastra. We'll be studying grammar so we can understand our scriptures. So we will be focusing on the grammar that will directly help us to understand the Shastra. We're not studying Sanskrit grammar to become scholars. I am not a scholar of Sanskrit. I am far from being a scholar in Sanskrit. So if you planned on taking a class to become a Sanskrit scholar, you are in the wrong place and you can reconsider if you want to continue because we're not becoming scholars in this class. We're studying Sanskrit so we can understand Shastra for ourselves. The other thing is that we will not be doing any spoken Sanskrit. So please don't ask me how to say, do we have class tomorrow in Sanskrit? Because I don't know how to say that. I mean, you'll learn to say it eventually with the language, with the vocabulary that you pick up, but that is not the purpose of this course. So the purpose should be very clear. We're studying grammar so we can understand our Shastra. Now, there's a phrase that you may have heard. Sanskrit is difficult. Has anyone heard that before? I mean, maybe your head has said it to you before. Maybe you've heard somebody else say it to you before. It doesn't matter where you heard it, inside or outside. Either way, it is the most ironic statement, right? I'll tell you why. You know, in English, we have comparative and superlative, meaning, okay, leave the fancy words. If I say near and I want to make it more near, I'll say nearer. And if I want to make it even more near, I will say nearest. So near, nearer, nearest. How do I say dear? Dear, dearer, dearest. Okay, so far so good. How do I say good, gooder, goodest? Correct? Bad, badder, baddest. No. Good, better, best. What? Bad, worse, worst. I mean, you learn one thing and then you try to use the language and everyone's like, no, this one's not like this. You have to correct it. Then you try to use the language again. They're like, no, this is not like this. And then they correct it. Or see, what is the plural of house? House. What is the plural of mouse? Mouses. So the child says, oh, I saw some mouses. No, I saw some mice. Oh, okay, I'm going to my friend's house. Make up your mind. Which one is it? Right? There's more exceptions than rules. Okay, what is the plural of fear? Fears. What is the plural of deer? D-E-A-R? Deers. What is the plural of deer? D-E-E-R? Deer. You gotta make up your mind. Everything has its own rule, right? Then you say deer, D-E-A-R, and it sounds the same, but it spells different than D-E-E-R. So you have to learn the spelling, then you have to learn how to pronounce it, then you have to learn how to make each one plural, and then you just exception upon exception upon exception. I think that sometimes it feels there are more exceptions than rules. So this is Sanskrit. Now we are learning Sanskrit through an English medium. So anybody who says Sanskrit is hard as an English statement needs to reconsider that statement. Because if you can speak English and understand English and use English grammatically, Sanskrit is extremely easy. Extremely easy. In rare circumstances, you will find exceptions, but 99% of time, Sanskrit will follow the rules. So then what are the roadblocks in learning Sanskrit? Then why do people feel Sanskrit is hard? Well, one is mental. They haven't really yet spent time with it. And they've just heard it's hard, and then they repeat that it's hard, right? For example, is cooking hard? those who've been cooking for years will look at you and say, "What are you talking about? You just take an onion and cut it, and you just put it in the pot with some oil." And then you ask your mom, "So how do I make this dish?" And she's like, "Just put some haldi." In Guyana, it's called dye. Just put some dye and some aloo and some salt. And you ask, "What is some?" You just feel it. What is you just feel it? But for someone who knows how to cook, cooking is not hard, right? So for someone who spends a little time with Sanskrit, you realize actually it is not hard. Now, the thing is, traditionally, the old school way of teaching Sanskrit was first you learn all the technical things before you get to the language, right? There's plenty memorization before you come to learn the language. That is like me saying, okay, you have to learn what is an adjective, you have to learn how to spell it, you have to learn how to write it, you have to learn how it works before you can start using it in the English language. Or you have to memorize all the SAT words before you can learn to write an essay. Right? You'll never start because there's such a roadblock in getting there, right? Now, the reason for that style of learning is there's a different reason for it. They start at a different age also. They have a different amount of time that they can give to learning. So they can learn it in that way. But here, we can't even remember what letters we learned last week. You want us to memorize 2,104 verbal roots before we start the language? Yeah, okay, see you next life. So this course is going to be non-traditional in the teaching style. We will keep memorization to a minimum, maybe zero even in the beginning. And as we go along, and you've gotten familiar with the language, I'll highlight some things that will be helpful for you to memorize so that every 2 minutes you don't need to check and reference your notes, right? But for now, you can use your notes for everything, and just try to catch the concept and taste the beauty of Sanskrit. Mhm. The other roadblock, the other problem when we learn Sanskrit is we don't actually know English grammar well enough. And then we use those English grammar words to try to understand Sanskrit. So the problem you will come to see is not Sanskrit, it is English. Even when we're learning Sanskrit, the problem is English, not Sanskrit. So please don't blame poor Sanskrit. It is not its fault. It is our English's fault. Okay, what can we do to make this class easy? Number one, you should take a resolution, a vrata or sankalpa. I am not going to give up. You please just look around you at everybody on screen. They say look to your left, look to your right, right? Please look around you. Less than half of the people that you see right now will remain at the end of this course. I'm saying half very generously, but you know how it goes. People start and they don't finish. So you take a resolution that I am not going to be one of those people who is missing from this screen by the end of the course. You've taken up such a noble sankalpa to study Sanskrit. Don't give up in the middle. The other thing is to fall in love with the language. And this is really easy because Sanskrit is so lovable. So as we go along, you have a little list in your notebook, reasons why I love Sanskrit. Or reasons why Sanskrit is so cool, if you have a problem with that statement. Reasons why Sanskrit is so cool, and you keep adding points to it, right? And the other thing is to pay attention to English grammar. You don't need to go anywhere to study it. Whatever English grammar is needed, I'll cover right here in this class. But when we're talking English grammar, please don't zone out and be like, oh yeah, I know this already. I'll zone in 5 minutes when she's back to Sanskrit, right? Please pay attention to the English grammar as well. Now, why Sanskrit? We're talking so much, don't give up on it, and it's so cool. But why should we study Sanskrit? Right? The reason is because Sanskrit is the key to our Shastra, our scriptures. And Shastra is the key to our permanent happiness. We put in so much effort for all kinds of fleeting happiness. Now we have the opportunity to put our effort in towards something permanent. The most important thing, actually, which is our permanent happiness, right? So that is why, that is the most important reason we learn Sanskrit. And the side benefit, well, a very important side benefit, is that our culture is preserved when we preserve the language. We'll see examples as we go along. But some people say, no, 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 I can study the scriptures with the translation. Well, I will tell you, it is not good enough to do that. It is so important to be able to pick up your scripture and see what it means for your own self, especially in the times of AI. You know, if you ask Chat GPT, we tried this out actually, we learned by experience. Chat GPT made up quotes by famous people on Bhagavad Gita, made up, and was able to tell us that these quotes come from these books on these pages. ChatGPT doesn't even know when it's lying. and one time it even made up a mantra and pretended that it was a real one. So ChatGPT, poor ChatGPT, you can't blame it, right? But it is not a reliable source of information when it comes to our Shastra, right? The other thing is it only uses information that exists. And the information that exists out there is created by people who have hidden agendas. So chat doesn't know what is right or wrong. I'll take all questions at the end. The other thing is that you'll find people from other traditions translating our books, our Shastras. Like, or even if you find Hindus translating Shastra, you'll have English-speaking Hindus with colonized minds translating our Shastra. So it comes with a bias. This is really important, eh? For example, when Max Mueller translated our Shastras into English, he had a Christian background. And see, for example, Brahmaji is Srishtikar. The word in Sanskrit for Brahmaji is Srishtikar. Srishtikar is translated in English as Brahmaji is the creator. You will hear everybody say Brahmaji is the creator. Right? But if you see the Sanskrit itself, Srij, it comes from Srij. Srij is to usher forth, meaning whatever was there in unmanifest, he just brings it into manifest. For example, a child will say, I am breaking up. Have you heard children say, the magician made a bird? You know that it was already there and you just couldn't see it. Okay, I'm going to give a minute for my. Am I back? Back? Back. Okay, perfect. The vision that other people, that other traditions have of the world is different. It is not bad, it is just different. So they don't have concepts that are there in Sanatana Dharma, so they don't have those words. So they use words that they have that give us the vision that they have, right? But when you learn the language yourself, then you fix that problem. The other thing is that some words cannot be translated. Like in Sanskrit, in Gita class the other day, we were trying to translate. How do you translate juta? Like everybody knows what is juta, right? You take a bite of something and then somebody else will eat it and then you'll say you can't eat it, it's juta. right? So if someone is coming to eat your lollipop and you don't want them to, you quickly lick it, right? And you're like, no, no, now it's juta. What is the word for juta in English? There is no concept of juta in English. So there's no word, right? Or or in Hindi, there's a word called jugaad, right? What is the translation for jugaad? There is no translation, right? Or you'll hear people here in Trinidad saying that thing is so puher. Hmm? What is the translation for puher? Some words don't have translations. You have to just use the word itself. Even when you're genuinely trying to translate it, you cannot translate it as clearly as it's supposed to be translated. Oh, yeah, roti also. Roti is a flatbread, a thin flatbread. That's roti. Dosa is a savory crepe. Okay, now let me tell you what to expect in this class. Okay, one, Devanagari script. Some have just learned the Devanagari script, so I'm going to give a few weeks for you all to get more familiar with it. So in the beginning, we will use Devanagari and the IAST transliteration. Please, that means that you have to be really familiar with using the transliteration and how each letter with each dot sounds. By show of hands, how many people would like a review of that again? Okay. Okay, cool. Now, Hindi speakers, please listen to me carefully, especially if you just joined. We are using the same script, but it sounds different. For example, how do you say the word portion in English? Portion, portion. I just said it. I mean, how do you say it in French? Portion, or something like that. Exact same spelling, but slightly different pronunciation. Now, the difference between Hindi and Sanskrit is not so drastic as English and French, right? They're using the same script, but they're pronounced differently. There are some key differences between Hindi and Sanskrit that you have to know. In fact, some Hindi speakers have the most terrible Sanskrit pronunciations. So when you come to Sanskrit class, please remember you're in Sanskrit class, you're not in Hindi class, and you have to make a switch in your mind. So we will go through that also to make sure you're pronouncing everything in Sanskrit, not in English. Now, the pace. Let me tell you a little bit about the pace of this class. Because it is a very fast-paced class, every day we will be learning something new. But the good news is because it is every day, you won't forget what we learned yesterday. You know, if there's like a 1 week gap, by the time we reach next week, you've forgotten what we did last week. But it's a little harder to forget what you did yesterday if you're doing it every day, right? But that also means you have to do your homework every single day. You have to put at least 30 minutes to studying Sanskrit and doing your homework after class every single day. And otherwise, you will feel lost. Then the other thing is that I will take questions at the end of class. 30 minutes is extremely short. And if we stop to take questions in between, then the flow will break and then we won't finish a concept in a day, right? So all questions will come at the end of class. Then attendance. Attendance is mandatory in this class. And recordings are not available for this class. Maybe you can blame my personal experience for that. When I went to university, my university was one of the few universities that actually had recordings of most of the classes that we went to. You know, the professor would write on the board and you could watch it in your room at any time, exactly what they're doing, how they're talking. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I'll just watch my videos later. Who wants to wake up for an 8:30 morning class? Well, those are the classes I did the worst in. And you say you're going to watch it and you never do, and you always fall behind. So no recordings for the upcoming class are being shipped. Okay? Because it is in my interest to make sure that you attend and properly follow the classes that are going on. um, because you've signed up for it, right? So that is why we're not sharing the recordings, not because we're lazy to share it, but because when your mind knows the recordings are available, it just treats the class differently. So all classes are in person. Video must be on. Today there are some people with video off. Video must be on in this class. It is not a passive class. It is not a listen while driving class. It is not going to benefit you. And no eating, no drinking, no multitasking. Those things should be going without saying. But it does not have Sanskrit and chai, you know. We're already compromising on the traditional means of learning in person, so we shouldn't compromise on this. And the last thing, please log in by 5:55 so that at 6 o'clock sharp we can do our opening prayer. Okay. All right. I wanted to do a few more things, but look, time finished. So we'll have to do that tomorrow. Um, Tomorrow we will start with a little bit of English grammar. Okay. You will find that the class that we just finished, course number 1, that is on YouTube now because that first course is over. Now we're in course number 2. So you will not expect to find these on YouTube as we go along. Okay. All right. I will do closing prayer and then I will take questions. Oh, let me mention the homework. Those of you who just joined Sanskrit class, if you looked at the homework and didn't understand it, if you're a Hindi speaker, don't worry, we'll cover the few things you need to know also. But if you were in the last batch, then you should have found all 4 mistakes. You didn't find them, then something is wrong, right? We'll go through it. I'll go through it tomorrow at the beginning of class. Your homework for today. Those who just joined, no homework today. Those who are learning the script, you're going to do Gita 1.2 and 1.3. Same thing like last week. Gita verse 2, chapter 1, and verse 3, chapter 1. Okay? We'll do closing prayer and then I will take questions. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Shri Satgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai.